The dark web, a hidden world beneath the digital skin of the internet, a place where anonymity reigned supreme and whispers of forbidden knowledge echoed through dark corridors of encrypted data. It promised secrets, power and escape from the mundane, but it also whispered a warning. Venture too far, and you might never find your way back. It was a place for the lost and the damned, the curious and the corrupt. Some sought solace in its anonymity, others a platform for their darkest desires. But for all who dared to enter, the dark web remained a double-edged sword, offering both allure and peril in equal measure. Ethan, a young journalist hungry for a story, found himself drawn to the dark web's siren song. The allure of the unknown, the forbidden, was too strong to resist. He craved the truth, the kind that lay hidden beneath layers of polished news articles and corporate-sponsored silence. The kind of truth that could shake the very foundations of what people believed. His current assignment: urban legends. Myths whispered in hushed tones, quickly dismissed as fabricated tales. Stories that seemed too fantastical to be real, yet too persistent to be ignored. But Ethan, in his gut, felt a flicker of truth amidst the smoke. He had a hunch that there was more to these legends than met the eye, a hidden reality waiting to be uncovered. His fingers danced across the keyboard, navigating through layers of encryption, each click of the mouse a step deeper into the abyss. The deeper he went, the more he felt the weight of the secrets he was about to uncover. He was searching for something specific, a legend whispered only in hushed tones: the Red Room. A place that was said to exist only in the darkest corners of the internet. A place where the macabre was said to play out live for an audience thirsty for violence. The very thought of it sent chills down his spine, but he knew he had to find it. For the truth, no matter how dark, was worth the risk. Hours bled into days as Ethan tirelessly followed digital breadcrumbs, each more obscure than the last. Just as he was about to admit defeat, a link appeared on his screen. It was plain, unassuming, almost innocent in its simplicity, but the title sent chills down Ethan's spine. Red Room, click here. Hesitation gripped him, a voice in the back of his mind screaming at him to shut down, to walk away. But the journalist in him, the seeker of truth, clicked the link. The world around him dissolved into a dizzying array of colours. And then silence. Ethan found himself staring at a stark black web page. A single flickering candle in the centre of the screen provided the only light. As his eyes adjusted, he noticed a chat box slowly materializing in the bottom right corner. A single message blinked into existence. "Welcome, Ethan. You seek a story? We have one to tell." Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through Ethan's initial curiosity. He was in too deep, he realized. This was not just some elaborate hoax. This was real, and it knew his name. Panic welled up in his chest, but he couldn't tear himself away. The screen held him captive, promising a horrifying truth. The chat box flickered to life again. "We've been expecting you, Ethan. We know you seek the Red Room. We can take you there, but it comes at a price." The message was followed by an address in his city, an address he knew. It was the address of his childhood home, a place he hadn't thought about in years. A cold dread washed over him. This was no coincidence. They were playing with him, toying with his deepest fears. His fingers trembled as he reached for his phone, torn between his journalistic curiosity and an overwhelming urge to run. The address echoed in his mind. He had to know. He had to see if there was any truth to this nightmare. Ignoring the voice of reason screaming within him, Ethan drove. Each turn of the wheel felt like a descent into madness, the familiar streets taking on a sinister, distorted appearance. As he pulled up to his childhood home, a wave of nausea washed over him. It was as if time had stood still. The same faded paint, the overgrown lawn, the swing set swaying gently in the night breeze. But something was different, a subtle wrongness that sent shivers down his spine. 7. The price of untold truths. A figure emerged from the shadows of the porch, tall, shrouded in darkness, its face obscured by the hood of a thick coat. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The figure raised a hand, and Ethan could have sworn he saw a flash of red, like a bloodstain in the moonlight.
"You shouldn't have come, Ethan," a voice rasped, each word laced with chilling amusement. "But now that you're here, the show can begin."
The figure stepped aside, gesturing towards the open door. Ethan hesitated, his heart pounding against his ribs. He knew that stepping through that door would be a one-way trip. 8. Within the belly of the beast. The air inside was thick with the stench of decay and something else, something metallic and cloying. It was as if the very walls were exhaling a breath of death, mingled with the sharp tang of rusted iron. The figure followed him inside, locking the door with a resounding thud that echoed through the silent house. The sound reverberated, amplifying the sense of entrapment, sealing their fate within these forsaken walls. The only light came from a single flickering bulb in the hallway, casting grotesque shadows that danced on the walls. Each flicker seemed to bring the shadows to life, creating monstrous shapes that loomed and twisted in the dim light.
"Do you want to see the Red Room, Ethan?" The figure whispered into the darkness. The voice was a chilling hiss, filled with a sinister promise that sent shivers down Ethan's spine. "It's closer than you think." The words hung in the air, heavy with dread and anticipation.
Ethan stumbled back, his hand instinctively reaching for the wall to steady himself. His mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation, but the oppressive darkness seemed to swallow his thoughts. His back hit something cold and metallic. The shock of the contact jolted him, a stark reminder of the reality he was trapped in. He turned, his blood turning to ice in his veins. The fear was palpable, a living entity that wrapped around him, squeezing the breath from his lungs. He knew in that moment that there was no escape from the belly of the beast. 9. The face of fear. It was a metal door, painted a sickening shade of crimson. Ethan recognized it instantly. The color was unmistakable, a deep, unsettling red that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It was the door to his old playroom, the one his parents had always kept locked. Memories of his childhood flooded back, memories of laughter and games, but also of secrets and whispers. The paint was fresh, still wet in places, as if hastily applied. It dripped slowly, leaving trails like bloodstains on the surface. Who had painted it? And why now? He could smell it, the metallic, cloying scent that hung heavy in the air. Blood. The scent was overpowering, mingling with the fresh paint, creating a nauseating mix that made his stomach churn.
"Open it, Ethan," the figure hissed, its voice a low growl. "See what awaits you." The words slithered into his ears, cold and menacing, sending shivers down his spine.
Ethan wanted to scream, to run, but his feet felt rooted to the spot. His mind raced, but his body refused to obey. He was trapped in a nightmare, unable to wake up. He was frozen, paralyzed by a primal fear he had never known. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing like a drum in the silence. His breath came in short, ragged gasps. He closed his eyes, took a shuddering breath, and reached for the doorknob. His hand trembled, the cold metal sending a shock through his system. What lay beyond the door? He had to know, even if it meant facing his deepest fears. 10. Eternal silence. The door swung open, revealing a darkness so complete it felt like a physical presence. Ethan stared into the abyss, his mind struggling to comprehend what his eyes couldn't see, and then a blood-curdling scream tore through the silence. His scream. The figure behind him laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the house.
"Welcome to the Red Room, Ethan," it whispered, its voice a cruel parody of a lullaby. "You wanted a story. Now you are the story."
The last thing Ethan saw before the darkness consumed him was the glint of a blade, reflecting the sick red light from within the room. The screen goes black.